Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Really? This is how life works? Okay. And anyways, so, now we're in the phase of life where I'm kind of, teetering back and forth. Like, what do I really want to do? Like, is this how I really want to live my life? And I'm watching my dad's health, kind of spiral down the drain.
Sorry. So at some point you decide to leave. Where do you go?
Yeah, so I leave and then I start working at the Spinal Injury Foundation. And so I'm still in public health research. It's just that, I've transitioned completely out of infectious disease. And I really consider that being a stepping stone because remember, I'm in Fort Collins commuting back and forth into Wyoming every day. Yeah. Which is only an hour. It's not that far. But now I'm in Fort Collins commuting an hour and change down into Denver. So I was trying to figure out how to get closer to my job, get closer to Colorado State Public Health. But really, actually, I stayed at the Spinal Injury Foundation, probably for 3.5, almost 4 years. I really started learning the patients that we were studying. I got close to them and just, seeing how their lives were impacted by the research we were doing. I mean, people that, had suffered from migraines or thoracic outlet syndrome, just severe pain for years. And then we were able to, help turn their lives around where they could walk again or just live pain-free.
That's so cool.
So I was like, wow, this isn't all about like the adrenaline junkie type thing. Like I'm making a real impact here, in people's lives. Unfortunately, they had a different vision with how they wanted to grow the foundation, and they needed somebody more in marketing and recruiting. And so I took a step back, especially, that year my dad passed away. And so I took a step back and, went and stayed at home with my mom for a few months to kind of help figure out stuff. I don't know if that helped or not.
Were they in Midland?
No, they're in Houston by this time. My mom, after I graduated high school, my mom did move down to Houston to be with, with my father. I mean, they weren't separated or divorced. It's just my mom was like, we're not moving middle of high school. Sorry. Like her whole life's here. And quite honestly, my mom's whole life was there too. Yeah. But we had lived in Houston before, so it was an easier move for her to go down there. Yeah. But I didn't have any friends. My mom had a network, but I didn't. So that's kind of why we stayed in Midland for my high school, but then went down there. Like she moved down there, after I graduated.
So what were those months like that you hung out with your mom?
Eye-opening, intense, beautiful. Everything that you would expect, like whenever, a parent passes away, you learn sometimes your helpfulness is not helpful. Sometimes, you realize as an adult child that you're now the parent. Then sometimes you kind of going back into the house, that your house of origin, after some time of separation, you just realize like, oh, wait, that's a really unhealthy behavior we have going on here. My mom was a functioning alcoholic. And so that's not something that, we rarely talk about on podcasts, but it was, pretty pivotal. Just how it kind of, she needed a coping mechanism. Right. And, for some people, they would go into therapy. For her, she turned to alcohol. And so it was, my heart bleeds for anybody that tells me in stories about they have a family member that, is caught up in drugs or alcohol, because it can be, even if the person's still functional, it can still, be very detrimental to the family. Like,
Well, it's
just the
hard.
behavior.
It's hard on the family members because everybody's rallying around them, trying to support them and trying to do what they can to help them. And they're just,
Mhm.
it's like, how? How do you as a child of an adult, right, that has this, how do you work that? How do you figure out a way to be there for them, but also to help them, and it's rough. It's absolutely rough. So, wow,
Yeah.
that
Like, when
was,
we had our daughter, my mom kind of came around,
no,
and I mean, we had a conversation. I really, when my mom was lucid, she would go through bouts where she was like, okay, that's enough. Like, I had a medical issue, I'm going to stop drinking. And then, for like 6, 7, 8 months, like, things were in repair.
mm-hmm.
And we'd have some really good conversations. I would be like, listen, I'm about to have a child. You want to be
Mm-hmm.
around this child? Like, we're not doing this unhealthy thing that we just went through.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that, because up until that time, like, I was in the drama triangle with her.
yeah,
I was either the victim or the perpetrator, and it flip-flopped. It would flip-flop back and forth, right? Depending on, if she were drinking or not drinking. And
mm-hmm.
then it's hard to get out of that,
Yeah,
right? And, and my poor husband, he's kind of dragged into this as well, just trying to support both of us. And
right.
sometimes he'd be like, and what do you think? And he'd be like, I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm
uh,
late.
I'm late for a thing. Remember the thing? I gotta go.
Yeah, the thing
Um,
I mentioned, right? Yeah.
yeah. And then when we, you know, when we had our daughter, um, my mom was very, she was sober for about 3 years. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she was fully sober, but, if she did disappear, if she were drinking, she didn't do it around us. We didn't really know.
Right.
Um, and then after about 3 years, things kind of went off the rails a
Mm.
little bit. And I had to make a mental choice of who I couldn't be the savior
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
I had matured enough, and I was like, listen, like, I want to be here to help you.
yeah,
And if you're ready for the help, I'm there.
yeah,
I'll be on the plane. We'll do rehab. Like, I'll be there every step of the way. But until you decide that you want help and you truly want to change, like, I can't.
yeah.
So, anyways, that's hard. That's a really hard stance to take, because
It's one
you
of the
really,
most difficult ever because you're trying to protect your child,
yeah,
right? And you're also trying to protect your mom. And it's like, wow, wow. That's got to be one of the toughest things ever.
it's tough love,
Yeah,
right?
it really is. It really is. No,
Mm.
I totally agree. So after you spend the time with your mom, that sounds like was pretty cool, right? And enlightening.
Yeah.
Where do you go after that?
So this is also Katrina had happened during
Wow.
this time, and Rita. And so part of this time of my mom was evacuating from Houston and,
Wow.
getting her reoriented back into Houston, because there was some damage to the house from the hurricane and everything like that. So I come back to no, by this time I'm living in Estes Park, Colorado. Yeah, I
Right.
come back to Estes Park, and I start working for a medical company down
Mhm.
in Denver, and doing more one-on-one type of counseling with people, because
Mhm.
in the background, what I didn't tell you is that my PhD program, I transitioned from epidemiology to nutrition,
Mhm.
straight community health and nutrition. So I'm wrapping up my PhD in that. Um, this is like not online. We're still doing tests and paperwork and mailing stuff in, guys. So anyways, so I'm wrapping up my PhD. I'm doing my clinicals. I'm working for a company where I'm kind of like quasi seeing client, patients, but also like doing clinicals at the same time. And my goal is just to go straight into a community health and nutrition field. I'm thinking like, okay, now I've got the credentials. Colorado Department of Public Health is going to let me in, but this is like the good old boys club. I mean, they really weren't expanding at that time. And then I go to work for a private company called Pharmaca and just really grow with that company. It's an integrative pharmacy. So it was a European model of pharmacy. So I got to, we had customers, not patients, but I got to do like quick, like little interactive coaching, nutrition coaching sessions with them. But also I'm helping manage the pharmacy side of things. And so, we've got all these cool, unique programs that are going on in the community. And, if you think about it, pharmacy is truly, if it done right, is really community health.
Yeah. I agree with that.
It's not always done right, though. So I stayed with that company for 11 years.
Wow. Good job.
I know. Yes.
So where did you go after that?
So I actually got let go from the company. We had a CEO that came in. I got laid off. So the CEO comes in about a year beforehand, and his job is to either get the investors' money out or to sell the company. And maybe it's 2 years, and he's not the nicest guy.
Liquidators usually aren't.
I mean, he's not even a respectful leader, right? Sometimes you don't like the leader, but you at least respect him. Like, there wasn't much in either category there. And so after about a year, I think he realizes that he can't sell the company. So he starts gutting it to see, or actually he can't get the company to profitability in his timeline. He's kind of like a henchman, right? So he was like, I got to be out in 3 years.
Right.
That's what the board.
No matter what. Yeah.
No matter what. I do not care who I step on.
Right.
Or what bodies I hide to do this. And so after a year, he's like, okay, I can't get, the profitability that the board wants to see. I'm going to start slashing. And so, our VP of pharmacy gets let go. This all happens within like 10 days. Our VP of pharmacy is gone, our VP of HR, our VP of operations. People are getting put into positions that they have no business being in. Everybody above me and below me gets axed. And I'm like, okay. And by this time I'm already investing in real estate. I'm like, I just told my husband, I'm like, if I can make it through the holiday, they're not going to let me go through the holidays. I'm the only operational person for the whole company here.
Right.
Actually, I take that back. I had an operations coordinator who at this time we're on fast track trying to like bring her up to like at least be at my level.
Right.
And because I was like, I need help. And, they let go of all their regional managers, like everybody's gone. And anyways, I was like, they're not going to let me go. We have 2 store openings and the holidays happening. They're not going to let me go.
Right.
And sure enough, I get the last store opened. I get off the plane. The next morning I show up at the office. They hand me my pink slip and my severance check. And they were like, thank you. See you later. And I was so mad. Like, who does that? I was like, I just successfully opened a store for you. Like our most successful opening ever. And I get a pink slip. And then I was like, this is business. Like it's a business decision. So like, don't take it personally. But then after that, I was like, whoa, I have the first Christmas back in 11 years. I was like, where are we going to go? And of course, a couple of weeks later, they realized, hey, Whitney, can you come like train, so-and-so to do X, Y, and Z? I'm like, no.
Don't think so. Thanks anyway.
I was like, should have thought of that.
No kidding. So where do you go after that?
I actually go to work for a tech company after that. But that was a really critical decision. I had already started scaling I think we have 10 rentals by this point in time. I've already been, done the fix and flip thing. So we've been scaling up equity and everything on the sidelines. By this time, I think we have, 10 rentals that close by the end of that year. And then we go into the next year and we expand to 20 more.
Wow.
And I'm working for a tech company. And I actually went to work for the tech company so I could get lending for my rentals. I actually ended up liking what I did at the tech company as their head of operations. So it was kind of cool to be in the space because, now I'm in a position I don't need the cash flow so much. And so I can kind of take a little bit more risk and flexibility with my job and do things that are more fun and not worry about like, when's the next promotion coming and all that sort of stuff. And so life starts getting really kind of like interesting and fun. I get to kind of play around with what I'm doing for my day job, but I know that I'm taking care of myself and my family with our outside investments. So things about this time start getting pretty fun.
That's cool. You make a decision at some point to write a book. Talk about Money for Tomorrow, right? Talk about the mindset in case somebody's listening, and there are, I guarantee it, people that are listening that are thinking about writing a book. They're thinking about investing in real estate, right? Talk about the mindset and the thought process that went into deciding to write the book.
So as I'm scaling the single family rental portfolio, my coach at that time, because I believe in coaching. I would not be where I'm at today had I not hired that initial coach. I would be on the same track. I probably would have figured it out, but I would be 10 years behind, right? Coaching helps you collapse time.
Yeah.
So my coach at that time, is very adamant. He was like, write down your journey because your daughter is going to want to know. And my daughter's like 4, 5 at the time. I'm like, okay. He was like, write down your obstacles, your trials and tribulations. What are the puzzle pieces that you're putting in place? How, if you had to start all over again, how would you do it? Like, what would be the blueprint from beginning to end? So I'm just got this random Word document that's going, mind you, we've done fix and flipping. We've done over 5 million in real estate flips. We've had 38 single family rentals by this point in time. I'm, JV on some multifamily building. I'm raising, when I lead the tech company, I start scaling a private equity company. I raised on 29 deals, GP 10 multifamily deals. And so, accelerants getting thrown on the fire.
GP, tell us what GP is for the people that don't know.
General partner. So I'm buying the buildings and we're doing the operations and we're raising capital for our investors who don't want to own the multifamily building. Or I'm sorry, they don't want to do the active work. We do the active work. They help bring part of the money, the down payment.
They just want their money to work for them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a beautiful marriage.
Yeah.
But as a limited partner, you do have to do your due diligence, right? You do have to do some upfront work. But at this point in time, I'm writing everything down. I'm just my knowledge level is just like exponentially taking off. And so I'm writing everything down. And then I get invited to speak at Bigger Pockets conference in 2022. And I pour everything out, all the big takeaways here. And, one of the pieces of learning how to protect your wealth is how do you keep your money and how do you pass it on? Because people get really enamored on how to grow it. They want the sexy deals, right? But those are all tactics. Let's understand the strategy and let's understand how to keep the money and how to pass it on effectively and efficiently. Because remember, my dad's died, my mom's died. I lost 5 family members between 2015 and 2017. 3 of which I had to settle their estates. And so I'm building mad skills left and right that I never had.
You're coming in and cleaning up the mess, right?
Yeah. And I'm seeing things that went right, seeing things that went wrong, documenting everything in this form. And so I give this presentation at BPCon and I opened up the last section of the top with let's talk about how to die. And I actually misspeak. That was not what I meant to say. I meant to say, let's talk about what happens after you die. And the room just goes dead silent. And then they start laughing. And then the editor comes up to me afterwards and was like, have you ever thought about writing a book? And my friend's like, she'll do it. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, what did I just say yes to? And my friend was like, hey, you've got that mad document that you've been keeping. Like you're most of the way there. And it was only meant for my daughter. I had started using some of that, knowledge and information and systems with my coaching clients, but I had never thought about putting it out into the world. So it did take me a few weeks to kind of be like, okay, how much impact can we really create by giving people the end-to-end blueprint? And if you're new, read the book, right? Like like go end to end. Okay, just put all the systems in place. Let's build the skills, understand the strategies, and let's get you there. If you're a seasoned investor, if you consider yourself a seasoned investor, this book is an amazing tool because you can go back to the beginning and realize what skills you never mastered, where you are investing in tactics, rather than based on investing in strategies,
Right.
and really master the money game.
Yeah. So, what's the single most important thing that you learned writing this book?
That the hard work is not in writing the book. It's actually what comes after, because now you got a book baby, and you got to get the book baby out to the world. And so marketing is, for me, was the hardest skill to master. And I can't even say that I've mastered it. It's something that I'm constantly looking at every single, month, to try to figure out how can we get our message out to the world.
So, why would you say it's that challenging?
Marketing?
You said it was kind of the most difficult part, right? What makes it difficult?
Oh, what makes it the difficult part? You know, you got to figure out how to message correctly, how to talk to people about the book. And some of book success is actually in like the actual like paid ad metrics, right? And so I think everybody would like to pour their heart into a book and just put it up on Amazon, and like people will come. I built
And
it.
have
They
people
will
just
come,
love it, right?
right?
Automatic. Yeah.
If I can get like 50 reviews, like it'll stay in the algorithm the whole entire time. And the thing is, the algorithm is constantly changing,
Yeah.
right? This podcast might have a shelf life of like 30, 60 days. And so I have to continue to get the message out there. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is because if you're going to write just one book or your first book, let it be something that you will not tire talking about, because
Right.
it's like it's like having a kid, right? Like everybody's so excited for the kid to get there. Like everybody's so excited for the book launch, but the work just started. You got like 18
Just,
more years.
yeah, exactly. Right. Right. And
If you're
there,
lucky.
and there's sacrifice, and there's investment, and there's toil, and there's, right. I mean, it really is like raising a kid.
Absolutely. So, and it's been a lot. I'm learning new skills all the time.
Yeah.
And, when we go back to, nobody's ever asked me the question, but they said, why did you ever lead the Spinal Injury Foundation if you were getting so much impact? It's because, or feeling like you were impacting the world, is because they asked me to do marketing. And I always told myself, my limiting belief, it was like, I'm not a marketer.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Like, I do a lot of speaking events and talking and writing. I am doing marketing.
Yeah.
So it's all a reframe. I'm, trying to flex these muscles.
So, a couple of real quick questions, and then we're going to wrap up.
Perfect.
What's your favorite thing about being a coach? And what's your favorite thing about speaking?
My favorite thing about being a coach is being curious. And so I actually walk that world between coaching and mentoring. So, I dare call it consulting. And, but when somebody needs a breakthrough, I won't give them the tool. I will ask, I love getting curious and asking questions and seeing that light bulb come on. And sometimes they come up with a different solution that I never even thought of. And I'm like, well, yeah, you know what? That would have worked. Cool. Let's test that. Let's see
Yeah,
if it works. Right?
exactly.
If not, we can always fall back on what I figured out worked. What was the second half of the question?
What's your favorite thing about speaking in public?
When I figured out that I didn't have to be the polished speaker, that people actually were attracted to me because, quite frankly, because I wasn't a polished speaker and that I could just be myself, that I actually started enjoying public speaking.
Yeah.
When I took public speaking in college and I got a C in it, because I paused, I had to look down at my notes, like I didn't have it all memorized. Like it set me backwards a little bit, people do people connect with people with who they really are and how they act and how they treat people. And so trust me, I do prepare for talks.
Mm-hmm.
I do prepare like when I get in front of an audience, but I only rehearse so much because I don't want the authenticity to be out of the conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I had an epiphany when I was much younger than I am now. And I was getting ready to speak in front of a very, very, very large audience, single largest audience by far that I'd ever spoken in front of. And I thought I was going to lose it because I was having a panic attack. I mean, it was like, right. But I had an epiphany, and the epiphany was if I cared more about the people in that audience than I did about how I looked doing it, everything was going to be just fine. And all of a sudden, all the tension, all the nervousness, all the stuff that was going on went away. It just went away. And from that point forward, I still get nervous, right? But from that point forward, it just helped me deliver. It helped me to just flat out bring it every single time. So pretty cool. I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. This has been fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.